Let's clear something up. Dyslexia is not about seeing letters backwards, and it's not about letters moving around on the page. I hear this all the time from parents and teachers, but dyslexia is actually a language processing difficulty. The way experts define dyslexia has recently changed. So today I want to explain what dyslexia actually is, what's changed in the latest definition, and what it means for real kids in real classrooms. Let's clear something up. Dyslexia is not about letters being backwards or moving around on a page. I hear that all the time from parents and teachers, but dyslexia is actually a language processing difficulty. And the way experts define dyslexia has recently changed. So today I want to explain what dyslexia really is, what's changed in the latest definition, and what it means for real kids in real classrooms today. Dyslexia is actually a brain-based learning difficulty that affects literacy, but also some other things like executive functioning, and I'm going to talk about that in another video. It's got nothing to do with intelligence, and it's definitely not about laziness or poor teaching. Many kids with dyslexia are actually incredibly bright and creative. For most kids, reading starts to become effortless once they've learned. But for a child with dyslexia, it can feel like hard manual work. So you might notice things like slow or choppy reading, difficulty remembering common words, and spelling that always seems to change, but is never quite correct. And there's really one important thing to know about dyslexia. Dyslexia is not a vision problem. The eyes can see the letters and the words just fine. What it is trouble, the brain has trouble processing the sounds and mapping them to words. And I like to think of it as the brain's having trouble filing all the information in the right places. So recently, experts at the International Dyslexia Association revised the definition of dyslexia, and the new 2025 definition has brought about some changes. And I think these changes are really important. And here are a few of the important ones. So first, dyslexia is now recognised as being influenced by both genetics and the environment. So we knew that dyslexia often ran in families, and now that is recognised in the definition. So if you have a family history of a learning difficulty, like could be dyslexia, could be dyscalculia, there's lots of different ones, it's more likely that a child born into that family will have a learning difficulty as well. But obviously it's not set in stone, and there are environmental impacts as well. But obviously we don't know a lot about those yet. The second change is that they now recognise that dyslexia affects languages all over the world. So it's not just specific to English-speaking people. They know that dyslexia occurs in people all around the world, and I think that comes from it being a brain-based difficulty. It's got nothing to do with English. It's actually, like I said before, about language. So it shows up in all languages, from English to Mandarin. It just looks different in different languages because of the way that those languages work. So in English, often affects phonics and phonological awareness, but in another language like Italian or French, sometimes it just presents as reading slowly. But we know that dyslexia affects other parts of the brain, and like I mentioned, executive functioning, and I will be talking about that in another video. This is the first video in our dyslexia series, but we know that it has lots of other effects as well. And the last change, which I think is so important, is that we're now acknowledging that dyslexia has an impact on people's emotional well-being and mental health. And I'm really glad to see this, because it means that we can look at the whole person and treat dyslexia as, something that affects their whole life. So kids and adults with dyslexia often experience frustration, anxiety, low confidence around learning. So it's really important that we don't just look at their literacy scores, and that we look at supporting the whole person. And I think it's really important from that perspective to know that you have dyslexia, so that you know why you're finding learning challenging. So why does any of this matter? It matters because understanding dyslexia changes how we respond to it. Instead of thinking that a child just needs to work harder, or they're lazy, or they need a better teacher, We now recognize that they actually need the right type of teaching. And the research is very clear. We know that structured literacy, so explicit systematic phonics instruction, sorry, that's a big word salad. We know that this is incredibly effective for supporting kids with dyslexia. And it's becoming the gold standard in classrooms all around the world. And it's also fantastic for all learners, so not just children with dyslexia will benefit from this kind of teaching. And this is the approach that I use in my own teaching practice, and the results are absolutely incredible. I once worked with a student who told me in our very first session, I just wish I didn't have dyslexia. Everything is just so hard for me. And she broke my heart. But she came to me in year 6 feeling completely defeated. But by the end of year 7, at the end of our time working together, she was in the top classes at her school. She was a school captain. She had lots of friends. But most importantly, she believed in herself again. And that key change that we talked about, her mental health and her self-esteem, that had the biggest change. And that is a huge indication of her future success. So that's what the right support can do. So if you're watching this and you're thinking, oh, this sounds like someone in my life, please don't wait. You can get in contact with me. I've got all the information in the description below. There's information on how to work with me, how to access our tutoring. We also have courses for parents and educational resources for teachers and schools. And you can also take our free Dyslexia Screener Quiz, which is linked in the description below. Please note that this is not a dyslexia assessment. It is just the screening quiz for more information. And so this was part 1 in our dyslexia series. I'll be back with video 2. I hope to see you there.